Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a bitterly cold Carrow Road. Norwich City hoping to keep their 2025 unbeaten record maintained as Coventry City come here this afternoon. Frank Lampard's Coventry City, of course. We're about a minute or so away, from the team news. I see the team sheets hovering to our right, so we're just waiting for that clock to tick over to 2 o'clock, and then we will be able to bring you Norwich City's starting 11 for this game. Obviously, we're expecting new signing Lewis Dobbin to have a role in the squad. At the very least, he is here. We have seen some pictures of him and whatnot, so it'll be interesting to see the type of role that he plays this afternoon. And obviously, someone who won't be here because they're playing for Burnley at the moment. There he is. Look at that impeccable timing from Adam. There is Lewis Dobbin arriving at Carrow Road. So it can be interesting to see the role he played. Obviously joined from Aston Villa, and someone who is currently on the bench for Burnley, Ashley Barnes, is obviously not here. Norwich City line up like this. It is gunning goal: Fisher, Duffy, Doyle and Crizene as the back four. Nunez, McLean and Marcondes as the midfield three, with Schwartau and Sainz either side of Anti-Cianat. The subs bench for Norwich: Long, Stacey, Hills, Cordoba, Gordon, Forson, Dobbin, Hernandez and Elliot Miles. So I'll just run through that for you again. 4-3-3 for Norwich. Gunning goal: Fisher, Duffy, Doyle and Crizene. So one change that back four. The midfield three is Norwich City's only available midfield three at this moment in time. Kenny McLean, flanked by Marcelino Nunez and Emi Marcondes. Oscar Schwartau returns to the side on the right. Borja Sainz, despite the FA charge, available to play this afternoon. We're expecting this probably to be his last game for a little while for Norwich City. He starts on the left, and Anti-Cianats through the middle. And the subs bench: Long, Stacey, Hills, Cordoba, Gordon, Forson, Dobbin, Hernandez and Miles. Paddy, any surprises there for you at all this afternoon?
No, not really. Well, I mean, Stacey out, Fisher in. No, not really. Crizene shows he's he's done enough to retain his place. So positive for him. Doyle alongside Duffy. No, I think for me, I've said it a few times now, Doyle is a centre back, stepping in on the ball, using his ability where he's strong, and masking a little bit where he's a bit deficient, which is, playing left-hand side against good, wide, pacey operators. So, and then further forward, no, I felt Schwartau would come back in. Again, he's been good in the last two home games, hasn't he? And having not started at Luton, it made more sense with the rotational festive element to it. And Lewis Dobbin on the bench. So, Brad Hill's back again after illness. Can't say there's too much in the way of surprises there.
Well, let me bring you one to your attention. No Grant Hanley on the bench this afternoon.
Well, not a surprise in terms of 11. I mean, you were down there yesterday. I mean, he didn't flag anything with Hanley, did he, fitness-wise? So I'm trying to think.
Brad Hill's back in on the bench.
Yeah. Which again, you talked about Ashley Barnes a little earlier. Everything Giannis said about Ashley Barnes, he said previously about Grant Hanley in a week or two ago. So we know there's interest in him. We know there has been probably offers now. So are things moving since we were down at Colney yesterday? We'll certainly put that to Johannes. But there's no doubt, as it was explained to us, if Hanley goes this window, Brad Hills, they won't go out and look for another centre-back. Brad Hills will stay. He won't go out on loan. He will step up. Are we seeing the first signs of that? Subject to Johannes saying there's a fitness-related issue.
Yeah, or illness, of course, which has been around the camp. Obviously, Brad Hills has had it himself. Jakob Sorensen, as well as a little bit of a calf issue that's keeping him out with. So there has been a little bit of illness in the camp. So we don't know for sure the reason that he's not on the bench at this stage. But there clearly is a world, Paddy, where similarly to Fashnak, similarly to Barnes, if the planets aligned, Grant Hanley in the final 6 months of his deal, you would imagine there would be a championship club at the very, would be interested in taking him. That would be of no surprise to see him depart at this stage, to continue what Norwich City are trying to do in terms of lowering the age group and trying to bring some of those players through, like Brad Hills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I won't be surprised in the slightest if come the end of this window, February the 2nd, I think it is, Grant Hanley is no longer a Norwich player, because not only has Johannes talked about the scenarios that could play out, I'm looking down, it's January 4th, the window only opened on Wednesday, and in the case of Barnes and in the case of Fashnak, those scenarios have come to pass. So, I think the odds are on him not being here. But to reiterate, we don't know the reasoning behind his omission today. It might not be that. It might be that. We will get some clarity after the game. But the reality is Brad Hills is the future. He is the past. And, I've seen a few comments already. They'd rather, in the context of we're building and we're moving forward, it's about the future, get Hills in. If he's fit and he's available, get him in, because he's the future. Grant Hanley isn't the future for Norwich.
No, agreed. And it's let's sort of move on to the players that are here. And obviously the Slimani blow was significant. Yannis admitted after the game to you that he was a little bit shocked to see him in a protective boot, and that turns out it is as bad as maybe it could have been, 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, it could have been months, which is maybe the plus side of this, but given how light Norwich City are in those central areas, and we're only really looking at a Mankwa Forson who hasn't really played as a central midfielder since the very start of the campaign. So it's going to be a lot of demand placed on McLean, Nunez, Marcondes over this burst of games coming up.
Absolutely, yeah, and heaven forbid, in the way of these things, any of those three get an injury or they're mentioned the word suspension with Kenny McLean.
Well,
but
you say that same referee today who refereed the Middlesbrough game and sent him off in that one. So
what joy! Well, hopefully Kenny keeps his mouth shut and doesn't go lunging.
Pass comment on his ability.
No, so. Yeah, it's concerning, really. I mean, obviously you've got Forsyth and maybe Gibbs over the horizon, but neither of those are coming into a group to really strengthen it in the way Slimani has done. So that is a blow. I think there's question marks have to be there already now with Slimani and potentially triggering the loan elements to make it a permanent deal and it's not a reflection on him, but how many games has he been available for since he moved here? And the answer is not enough for me to make it a permanent deal. There's no doubt in the man's ability. Technically, he's more than good enough to play in this Norwich midfield in the Championship. And I don't want to bracket him with Jakob Sorensen, but if you get to the point where they're unavailable more times than they're available, then there's not a lot of point having him on the payroll. So that is a blow for him. Hopefully, I think I might have jinxed him, actually, because I said after, I think it was the Millwall game, that it looks like finally those hamstring-related things are behind him, and what an influence he was starting to have. And then he just goes down very innocuously at Kenilworth Road, and it's potentially 6 weeks now, ankle ligament. So, you hope he has a bit better luck for the rest of the season, because I think that might make the difference between whether they look to trigger that into a permanent deal or not. Because I think the decision to give Sorensen an extension has proven probably to be the wrong one, and that wasn't really with hindsight. You could see with his fitness record, he's probably not going to be available for the majority of the games, and that's proved the case today, isn't it? So, yeah, the reality is because of those elements, huge focus on Marcondes. Luckily, Marcondes he had a little bit of a breather, didn't he? What game was it? Was it the QPR game, wasn't it? So he's had a little bit of a breather. Nunez has had his periods out, so he should be, in terms of miles on the clock, he should be relatively fresh. And McLean, likewise, 8 games he sat out. So the good thing is it's not 3 players you're reliant on who played every single minute of Championship football this far into the season. So, because the reality is they're probably going to have to play a lot of minutes between now and Slimani, and then the 2 younger lads coming back in.
What I would say in Slimani's defence, and again, I think you'd need to see it back, but it happened at a corner situation, didn't it? And he was grappling with Carlton Morris, to be fair. I know, because I went down post-match and looked at the pitch was atrocious, to be fair. So whether that has played a part, and like you say, it isn't a hamstring one. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. There were some interesting quotes, actually, from Chris Wilder on him yesterday about how maybe his future is definitely is away from Sheffield United. So, we'll see how that unfolds. But, yeah, a shame for him because, like you say, it felt like he was getting into the rhythm. Let's move on to what's happened in the last few days then, Paddy, because there's a new name on Norwich City's bench, Lewis Dobbin. Obviously, spent the first half of the season on loan at West Brom. Didn't play too much football, largely because of their other options. Carl and Grant's had a very good season for them. Mikey Johnston, who they signed, I think, pretty late in the window from Celtic on a permanent deal. That was sanctioned after he joined the club. I think it was 1 start, 18 in total for him. You saw him play at the Hawthorns. I don't know how much you remember of him, which is probably very little. But in terms of...
Carl Grant was very good that day, to be fair.
Yeah.
He was very good.
And as well, it's worth adding, he was playing in a Carlos Corberán system, which, he is quite pragmatic as a coach. It's not a Johannes Hoftor up attack first kind of approach to it. But, what's your thoughts on where Ashley Barnes' departure leaves the squad? Because it is one that is now, obviously, Josh Sargent to return hopefully for the next Championship game against Sheffield United in a couple of weeks, but it looks a little bit light, doesn't it?
Well, you put that to him yesterday, and I thought his answers were of a fashion that they won't be going out and getting another striker. Talking about this wide player, Jurasek or not, they'll look to do something in that area, and it feels a bit like Cernach, and Dobbin, because he said Dobbin can play anywhere along the front 3. He wants those type of multi-dimensional players in the final third rather than an out-and-out. Because you made the point before we went on air, you bring in an out-and-out striker, there we go back to last January in a certain Sidney Van Hooijdonk. Once Josh Sargent's fit, he's not getting a look in. And it would be likewise if they went and brought in a more established number 9 type. If Josh Sargent's fit and available, which we are led to believe will be for the next league game after the FA Cup, he plays. So I can see the logic, but by the same token, and again, you put it to him, Dobbin's numbers don't scream he knows where the goal is. But his answer I thought was very interesting, that in terms of, if you want to talk metrics, he said in terms of his running output and his his ability to sort of, the physical aspects of it, he's right up there. So they've looked at that aspect, and they feel that he can add something to the group that they don't already have.
And they were alike, weren't they, on those players who can stretch short of a little bit of pace. There are a lot of players who show for the ball, and probably not many who, beyond probably on Hernandez, really, we're looking at as maybe and Jack Stacey in a slightly deeper position who offer that thrust and pace.
True, yeah. And again, even on he pushed back, didn't he, Yanis, on the numbers? He said, well, the reality is if he was a more rounded player, he wouldn't be here at Norwich in the Championship now. He's a Premier League parent club, so went for a lot of money, didn't he? So they feel.
I mean, that was as part of the whole what they call it, FFP sort of tussle.
Was it? Okay, fair. It still went for a lot of money.
Yeah, still
decent money, but so they're looking at this as a project. I think the urgency is the fact that they feel that Sainz is going to be, after today, out for 6 games. He plays in the same area of the pitch as Sainz. That's his preferred position. Right footer on the left. They could do this deal relatively quickly, and I think that's the driver for it. And then it's up to Johannes and his coaching team to try and add some of those elements that, if you look at his West Brom output, wasn't there necessarily. So do we think he's going to come in and suddenly nail down a starting spot? I don't see it. I see him more again in the Cade Gordon scenario, and can he, unlike Cade Gordon, push through when he gets some minutes on the pitch, and then prove, somebody who could, over the second part of the season, actually contribute, which, let's be honest, Cade Gordon hasn't really done.
No, agreed. Let's see if we're in a position to bring you the Coventry team. We are indeed, and this is very interesting because we think, and there's been a bit of chatter behind us. I think there's a club legend behind you, isn't there? I don't know if you're a little bit starstruck, but there we go. Yeah. This is how they line up. Back 3 for them today, which is a little bit similar to what they did do under Mark Robbins and had real success with for a period. Dovin in goal, Kitchen, Thomas and Latabodiere as the back 3, Van Ewick, Allen, Chief and Bidwell as a midfield 4. Obviously, those 2 wide players as wing backs, with Jack Rodoni behind Thomas Asante and Bissett, and their subs bench, Brad Collins, Lewis Binks, who is a player we know Norwich City liked in the summer, Jay De Silva, Tatsuro Sakamoto, who a little bit surprised he's not starting given his quality. Ellis Sims had an injury, has he? Okay. Ellis Sims as well. Raphael, Josh Eccles, who also has been very good. Victor Torp, who's also been very good, and Fabio Tavares. So players there on the bench, Paddy, who you look at from a Coventry perspective, and you're far more equipped to speak about this than me, but they're ones who feel like they have been really good regulars in some obviously a very good Coventry side under Mark Robbins for a period of time.
Yeah, I think putting my allegiances to one side, they do have players at this level you think should be a lot better than where they are on the table, which is ultimately why they made the managerial change. And I think, as you rightly say, you look at that bench and there's some players there you think, well, aren't they in the 11? I think they're very much in the Frank Lampard getting to know you phase still. I think he's only been in since, looking down at that, I think 5-6 games now.
8 games.
Is it 8? Is it? Yeah. Millwall was the first one, wasn't it? Yeah. And they're very up and down. They've drawn the last 2. They had an extra man against Cardiff on New Year's Day and only drew 1-1, and they weren't very happy with that performance, I don't think. So drew with Millwall prior to that at the CBS. So festive-wise, they've taken 3, 4, 5 points where Norwich have taken 7. So you can see that Norwich are slightly more of a cutting edge at the moment. But there's no doubt they do have some quality in midfield and forward areas. And also some game changers on that bench looking at that. And maybe you could argue they've probably got some better options than Norwich have on their bench. Certainly more championship-ready options. So, yeah, but it feels very much a work in progress from what I can gather. And it might shine with what we know of Norwich. They're quite fragile on the road this season, both Robbins and now Lampard. The mentality element, all the things that we've accused Johannes' team of, maybe prior to New Year's Day at Luton, apply to this Coventry team. Their record away from home isn't great. And that's why I think probably Norwich will edge it today.
You enjoying the rebrand, Frank Lampard's Coventry?
I don't believe I'm calling it Frank Lampard's Coventry. Yeah, you may choose to call it that. Yeah, no, we won't. Just because you never know with old Deadly Doug in charge, a Norwich fan of old. If Frank doesn't get them going, he might not be there for too long. Then it won't be Frank Lampard's Coventry. But
there was, of course, famously a couple of years ago, very nearly Frank Lampard's Norwich City.
Well, he certainly was on the short list. Certainly was talked to by a certain former sporting director. but they pivoted away from him. Yeah, I mean, you had just before Christmas, you had when they hosted Plymouth, it was Frank Lampard's Coventry against Wayne Rooney's Plymouth, and sadly one of those is no longer in the dugout. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I thought, as you said to Giannis yesterday, it's two sides who want to kind of dominate the ball and sort of edge the possession. So two teams who really want the same template. You know, I guess it comes back down to the midfielders and Norwich's three. If they can get an upper hand over Coventry's midfield mix, then that should be Norwich who get more of the ball, and then it's can you release some of their attacking players. But a very intriguing game, yeah, because I think Lampard's style as opposed to Robins is a little less pragmatic, a little bit more pleasing on the eye, maybe. So, but that's a process, and as we've seen with Norwich, that is a process that can take time, and it comes with peaks and it comes with troughs in terms of results and performance. So, I think they're very much in that cycle at the minute.
Yes, agreed. Just finally, then, before we come on to predictions, let's speak about Borja Sainz and obviously that FA charge that dropped yesterday. Well, he was actually still conducting some of his radio duties when it dropped. I could have interjected and got some quotes from him, but I thought I'd better not. I don't think the Radio Norfolk guys would have been too happy with that. But it was what we expected, wasn't it? And I guess the upside, if there is an upside in any of this, and clearly, we'll have to see how the process unfolds, I think, before maybe discussing Borja Sainz and his role in what exactly happened at Sunderland. But available today, which certainly in the middle of the week didn't seem to be the expectation from anyone.
Sorry, just before I answer that, Dan is Steve Grizzovich, who is Mr. Coventry, not Darren Huckabee, despite what you might think this part of the world. Big Oggy. But, yeah, I mean, again, are we surprised? I mean, it's kind of worked in Norwich's favour now in terms of the sort of protracted nature of these FA processes. It didn't for Kenny McLean because it was, very swift, and justice was dispensed from their point of view very quickly prior to Portsmouth, and it completely kiboshed the approach that day. Angus Gunn got dragged out. I think he played 3 games before it was actually resolved, wasn't it?
Well, this is 4th game.
And now Sainz is 4 games, yeah. And there was very much a sense from Giannis after the QPR game that Luton, yes, but Coventry would be the first of a 6-game ban. As it's turned out, it's not. They've got till Tuesday, I think. So, yeah, I think it's safe we won't prejudge the outcome, but you speak to the people who matter here at this club, and that they do expect Borja Sainz to be found guilty of that charge now, which the FA have launched. And as a result, if that is the case, the tariff is 6 games. It's black and white. So Brighton would be the first of 6 games with that. Borja Sainz, and then we'll maybe get to the whys and wherefores of his actions and what the club think of that in due course.
Indeed. How's it going to go this afternoon then? It's a good old following from Coventry, isn't it? It's not a million miles away, but how do you see it unfolding?
Well, as I said earlier, by all accounts, they are quite brittle away from home, and conversely, Norwich are excellent at home. Bristol aside, really, I suppose Burnley, the result went against them, but they played well that day against a very good side. So if Norwich maintain what they do at Carrow Road, then they need to be a bit better than they were against QPR. They were a little bit sluggish, a little bit off it that day, but I'd fully expect Norwich to edge this game. I'm going to go 2-0. You?
I think this is about the 4th game in a row we were going to go for the same, so I'll mix it up and I'll say 3-1 Norwich just to be a little bit different, but I would have gone for 2-0 for what it's worth. Any family in the away end today?
Not today, no, not today. No, they're too busy eating and drinking still. So none have made the trip, but my 2 children have been given some Coventry paraphernalia, but as in baby grows and what have you. I'm not putting them in it today because we need to be neutral in our house. So maybe after today. But the older one, he's still Norwich, so I don't think he's going to be wearing any Coventry paraphernalia. What we got?
Good stuff. Minor fitness issue apparently for Grant Hanley, which is what keeps him out. So yeah, there we go. We'll obviously bring you some more from Johannes on that post game. I think that's that is all from us, of course, or more coverage, analysis, and I'll be on the live blog throughout the afternoon over at pinken.com, and we will we'll bring you everything that we can throughout the afternoon, including obviously that reaction from Johannes off Torup. So keep it locked for that, and obviously I hope you're keeping warm if you're not coming down to Carrow Road, and if you are coming down to Carrow Road, hopefully see you soon for the first home win of the new year. I think we can still say Happy New Year. So Happy New Year to you all. See you soon.